'Tis I. Hey everyone, glad to see you back, glad to see you looking fresh, and today I want to talk about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I hope you're all enjoying the game. I hope we're all playing it, having as much fun as I am. And today I want to talk about DLC characters that did not make it into the base roster, because even though this is the biggest Dragon Ball game to ever exist, none of us are ever satisfied. So I want more characters, and of course we know that DLC is coming down the line. So I wanted to put my 2 cents in, say what characters I would love to see coming down. I didn't mention any of the ones that are already confirmed. I didn't mention a couple others. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's very improbable just to name every single Dragon Ball character to ever exist and say I want them in the game, because somebody does, maybe not me. So even though I have over 30 characters here that I'm talking about today, this is not a comprehensive list on every single Dragon Ball character that could make it into the game. And if I missed one of your favorites, I'm sorry, just let me know down below. And without further ado, I got a lot of characters to talk about, so I'm going to be breaking it down from each show individually. Starting from the newest to the oldest, where we're going Super, GT, Z, and then Original, in that order, and then I'll end on a little surprise. So let's just jump into this thing. So for Dragon Ball Super, we're starting with what originated as a video game character, Android 21, of course, from Fighters, has now been folded in through stuff like the superhero movie. I would love to see her. I really liked her role in Fighters, so I'd like to see her in another game. Gekko. It's weird to me that he wasn't included already, considering he has his own manga. I thought that was kind of a shoo-in character. I know that Super has a plethora of big, super-powered, crazy dudes. Gekko not really fitting into that, but he's a fun little character to be included. I think they did a pretty good job covering their bases with Super. The only other 2 characters I would include are Champa and Vados. Kind of like Whis and Beerus. Mirror images of them. They probably play very similar to those 2. Maybe just palette swaps, but I like those characters a lot, so I'd like to see them included. Jumping over to the GT front. Again, not too many I would really like to see. I'm not the biggest GT fan in the world, but there are a few that I would like to see included in the game. I think Gyu, this little robot, have him buffed up. I think that's fun. I think it's a fun little inclusion. He was a main star in GT. He was through the whole show. I think it's just smart to have him included in this. Super 17, I just think it's weird that he wasn't included in the base game already. I don't know exactly what they were kind of thinking. I know he was overpowered in past games, and his moveset in the show is also very overpowered. So maybe that's where their headspace was at. Maybe they had to make cuts somewhere. Super 17 was where it was at. I don't know. The fact that we got GT in the base game at all is kind of monumental. Super 17, I think, needs to be in there to really encapsulate all that show. And finally, in GT, this is a me pick, Tsunama. I really liked this guy's episode. He's very early on in the show. It's where they were like space journey adventures, goofy little like stories. A big catfish that can cause earthquakes, or supposedly cause earthquakes, I think is hilarious. I know it's based on an old Japanese legend that the catfish causes earthquakes. I mean, Wishcast from Pokemon has the same theme going. I think it'd be a fun, big character, and for some reason there's a lack of big characters in Sparking Zero. So having one from GT be a big catfish, that's great. Counteract all these apes running about. Bouncing on over to Z. There are more characters from Z than GT and Super. I think they really cover their bases well on those 2. For Z, I'm going to start with Pikkon. I think that out of all these characters, honestly, he probably has the least amount of chance, just based on the fact that his movie is already represented. The movies as a whole are already represented. If there was no movies in the game already, then it'd be like, yeah, Pikkon and Janemba, easy peasy. But Janemba's in the game. The movies are in the game. So I don't see them making a movie pack, and sliding Pikkon in somewhere else seems unlikely. But here's hoping. Pikkon's a cool dude, and I want to see him in the game. Supreme Kai, Kibito Kai. I don't know why they're not. I'm not even a big fan of these guys, but it's just weird that they're not there. If they want to go crazy, they can put Elder Kai in as well, but I don't think they would. But just those 3. I don't see why they were cut. I feel like the Buu Saga was cut the most out of any of Z, and that includes my boy. I started laughing immediately. Yakon. I'm not even the biggest fan of I mean, I might be. That's the weird thing. I'm not like, oh, Yakon's the best. I get my favorite in the boost up, any of this stuff. I just have like a passing like appreciation for Yakon, mostly because he reminds me of Scyther, also from Pokemon. So I mean, I might be the world's biggest Yakon fan, just out of like who is other than me. You know, I feel like I'm the one that bringing him up. I feel like I'm the only one that remembers him. A big Yakon supporter, I guess. I know the other of the characters from the Bobbity clan aren't even in this game. I don't think Pui's in it either, so I guess you can kind of give a passing nod to him as well. Back to the Kais. I mean, King Kai, I kind of want to, but he doesn't really fight, so we can include the people that helped train Goku, and that's Bubbles and Gregory. I know that Bubbles is a manga character, Gregory's not. He's a anime only, but that has not stopped these games before from having anime only characters. I mean, all the movies were anime only, so Gregory, the small little dude, the size even smaller than that of like Chaozu, would be extremely fast, extremely crazy, and Bubbles is also very, very quick. He's not very big as well, he's just a monkey. But, I mean, I don't think you'd have to mix the playstyles up that much from a Great Ape, just shrink him down. It seems pretty easy to me. And then finally, from Z, the one, the only, the farmer with a shotgun. So, yes, it's a joke pick. But I had this really fun idea with a what-if scenario where Farmer with the Shotgun actually beats Raditz. And what does the story go from there? You know, Raditz never comes to take Gohan. The story of Z might not even happen. Or it might be worse because then Vegeta and Nappa show up and it's way worse because they were never told about it. There's a million different ways you could tell that story. So that's a lot of fun. OG Dragon Ball characters. I'm starting with the big two right up front, Android 8 and Nom. These are the two that get included a lot when talking about OG. Android 8 is my #1 most wanted character that's not currently in the game. I absolutely adore Android 8. He's one of my favorite characters in Dragon Ball history. I would love to see him back. Nom, not as highly for me, but he's included hand in hand with Android 8 a lot of the time, so I want to see him back. Back to the very first tournament arc of the entire show. I think that'd be a fun little story to tell. The way I envision a lot of these OG ones is like, what if they did a story pack to include a lot of the OG ones? And I want a sequel to Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, where it's OG Dragon Ball, so I'm kind of wish fulfilling myself through Sparking Zero a lot of that. Original Dragon Ball, original tournament arc, Bacterian, Giran, and Jackie Chun. Bacterian and Giran are two of the most memorable characters from that original tournament arc. And Jackie Chun, whatever happened to that guy? Wins the tournament and just leaves? I don't know. Be cool to see him again. It'd be fun. Interesting character. We don't know a lot about him. Moving forward, I want to see Chi-Chi from the final tournament of OG Dragon Ball. And I want to see her father, the Ox King, at his prime. The Ox King was a big, very scary, imposing character in original Dragon Ball. And now he's just an overall classic goof. But to see him at his prime would be a lot of fun to play as well. Plus, his daughter Chi-Chi marries Goku. He's tied in with the show forever, even if a lot of people don't remember his crazy cool origins. One of my favorite arcs in original Dragon Ball was when they did a tournament with Fortune Teller Baba, and that whole scenario gave us a bunch of cool characters. I want to include Bandages, Devilman, and Grandpa Gohan, of course. The other two, I guess you could include Fangs and See-Through. I don't know. You can kind of skip over those two. They're not as memorable. They're not as cool. Yeah, we just see Yamcha catch a win, so maybe for that front. But the way they beat See-Through is kind of I mean, it's whatever. It's old school Dragon Ball humor. But in a fighting game, it's... Plus, how are you going to make an invisible character work? So we skip over the first one, too, which is Fangs, so just a weak little vampire dude. Either way. Red Ribbon Army stuff, General Blue, Tao Pai Pai, Obvious. I mean, I see why they weren't included, because if we're not including a lot of Dragon Ball, OG Dragon Ball, they wouldn't be. You can also include the Emperor Pilaf. I didn't initially include them. I know this is the Pilaf machine or whatever. If you're not going to include all three, I don't think you should include any of them, personally. They might be fun background characters, like how Bulma is, because Bulma's not on this list. I don't think Bulma should be fighting. But, I mean, if Bulma ever got into a big mech suit, she could. But other than that, I mean, whatever. I'm going off script here. And then we have the Master Korin stuff. When Bora and Upa, I think you can make a little tag team thing. Just have him have Upa kind of fight some of the moves with Bora. Because if you remember, Bora back in the day was one of the strongest characters in the show. Obviously, he's been vastly outclassed now, but he was a main character, not a main character, but he was a main plot point. Reason for getting one of the Dragon Balls. He helped Goku climb Master Korin's tower. And then, heck, we can include Master Korin. He's not much of a fighter either, but like Master Roshi, I know he has some moves behind him. And plus, it'd be a very interesting moveset, I think. And then we can include the other characters like Mr. Popo and Kami. You know, the higher up the tower you go, all the way to Kami's lookout. I don't know if they're afraid to include Mr. Popo because of some backlash of how he looks. But Kami also is a very interesting one. I don't know how he would play much more different. He's not much of a fighter either. He used to be, though. And so another, like, old character, you know, like a Master Roshi. That's the one I'm going to keep bringing up. Master Roshi, you know, you have Master Korin and you have Kami. A lot of cool old blood there. And then, of course, Demon King Piccolo. That's the villain of this arc, this story, that if they do a story pack, I think is obvious. And then you can have, you know, Demon King Piccolo give birth to Piccolo Jr. You can have that be a character if you want. And then fuse with Kami, which is already a character in the game. Finally, for OG, I didn't forget her, Launch. I know that our beloved Toriyama did forget her, but I'm going to include her anytime I can. There's a good reason why, after he forgot her and remembered her, didn't bring her back. But I think we're okay with having a character that can change from blonde to not and not be included in Super Saiyan now. I love Launch. I have ever since, you know, I learned way back when watching OG. I'm like, I have not heard this character at all. I looked into her, learned that she was kind of forgotten about, and then was kind of just like not even written out, just like left out since then. So I'd love to see her back. And then I said there's a little bit of surprise at the end. I'm going to have a couple guests, if we can, Arale and Beelzebub. So if I have to have one, of course I'm going to pick Arale 10 times out of 10. But if I had to, if someone came to me and said Arale is not an option, Beelzebub is a perfectly fine backup character, also created by Toriyama. Sandland is having a big resurgence this year with an anime and a game. It's a great year to be a Sandland fan. So I'm totally down to include him in a Dragon Ball game. Having them both may seem, I don't know, with this many characters, I don't think they'll stick out too bad, especially since Arale is a cameo in the show itself. If we're splitting hairs here, you can say it's not a guest character because she does appear in the show. So Beelzebub would be the only guest character, but I mean, they're both guest characters, or who we can here. But those are them all. Those are the ones that I would pick if I was given the keys to the kingdom. It was like, who do you want for DLC? Who are your picks? Your must-haves, your wants, your needs. Those are them. And are there any characters that I missed that you would include? Are there any characters on my list that you think is stupid? Yakon, maybe? Let me know down below. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. And as always, like this if you like this, subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you at some point.